Hi there, Andrew Bell with you, and I'm delighted to be with you once again. What a busy world we're in. There's always so much happening. Now, over the last week, we had the release of the Queensland budget for the year ahead. Philosophically, it was a choice between one of two things: pay down the significant debt of the state through cost cutting and or asset sales, or two, keep our high debt, if not increase it, to provide the infrastructure for what is clearly a rapidly growing state through a resurgence in migration and a revival of so many of our core economic strengths such as mining and agriculture and tourism and so on. The government chose to go the latter of the two. Whilst I'm an advocate for fiscal responsibility, I also know that governments around the world are dealing with a lot of old infrastructure and the need to upgrade so much of that infrastructure. Significant investments in transport, schools, hospitals and so much more is going to be hugely beneficial for our state, and with fingers crossed we'll see an even faster growing economy that will return revenues back to the government in the medium term to concentrate on that debt reduction at a later stage. I've mentioned before that the Gold Coast has reached a critical mass where we are no longer taken for granted by either sides of politics. The Prime Minister recently said that he'd provide $1 billion towards fixing the issues around our road corridor between the Gold Coast and Brisbane. And the state government all but matched that as well. That would never have happened in the past. But we're now of a size where our votes really count, and we're getting things that we would never have got before. This is a great position to be in and to make sure that the Gold Coast continues to ride the benefits of the massive investment that's already occurred in the lead up to the Commonwealth Games. There was also a report out by the Real Estate Institute of Australia and co-sponsor Adelaide Bank, which shows an improvement of housing affordability across the nation. This may be a little surprise to some. By the way, the same report shows that rental affordability is actually in decline. So for all of those thinking about staying in the rental market, I strongly urge you to save hard and do what it takes to get in that home ownership. Now, the report shows that 36.5% of a family's income in New South Wales is required to meet loan repayments, 34.1% in Victoria, whilst in South Australia and Queensland, it's the mid 27% range. I'd suggest that this improvement of affordability has come about partly in many industries seeing weekly incomes increasing. Now, it also comes from the competition amongst home lenders that's been intense and seeing lower rates, and finally the moderating and in some cases decline in price growth, which is starting to provide benefits to borrowers. The cost of housing is now becoming a very clear driver of interstate migration. I saw this in the last week with two instances close to myself. One was a niece who has now made the decision to move to the Gold Coast from Sydney for one reason only: she can't afford to buy in Sydney. Her husband was able to secure an excellent job here on the Gold Coast, and they're excited about getting into their very first home. Now, the second was someone joining our sales team who also made the decision to move from their current place of residence to the Gold Coast because of more affordable real estate prices, as well, I might add, for our spectacular weather. No wonder our interstate migration is at incredible levels at the moment, with current numbers for Queensland about 17,000 per annum, and I expect that number to grow. Well, tonight's the night. I'm sleeping out in the open as a fundraiser for those who are homeless here in Australia. And my God, it's the coldest week of the year. The last time I camped out was when I was with the cadets, but I had a tent, a fire and considerable amount of comfort. Tonight, it's a sheet of cardboard on a concrete floor and a sleeping bag. Soup and water are the only things that will be provided. And so I'll get a real experience of what it's like to sleep outdoors. Yet for me, it's only one night. For the homeless, it's every night. I'm going to keep that in mind, and the fact that there are so many children sleeping out in parks and other open areas because their mothers have escaped domestic violence but don't have the money for a shelter. This is one last chance if you're looking to make a difference in someone else's life. On screen once again are the contact details to be able to make any small donation that you might like to make towards our Australian homeless through the Vinnie's organisation. Well, that's it for now, as we're days away from the end of the financial year of 2017 and 18. So until I'm with you in a fortnight's time, stay safe and let's be kind to one another.